What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast, live free agency edition. Coming to you from all sorts of various places. I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. Joined by my guys, Will the Goat Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb, and Mark K at MK Hoops. Big Dave will be joining us shortly. We are at CHGO_Bulls, and bless his heart, our producer Law at the office right now, finishing out his day. What's up, Law?
What is happening, gentlemen?
What
Are
is
you
that,
on the
what
drop?
is that shirt you're rocking?
Oh, it's the Sky. We got to rock the Sky today. World champs from years ago. Now they're terrible. But hey, they're playing tonight. So they're going to beat the Sparks because the Sparks are worse. So shout out to that. And you know what? You don't want to talk to me.
Somebody has to win.
You want Big Dave. So let's get rid of me and add Big Dave. What do you say?
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Big Dave
There he
joining
is.
us now.
What's happening?
There's the man, the myth, the
LD.
legend. Follow Big Dave on Twitter at BAWL Sports. Bulls Nation, we are here. We are about a half hour into the 2023 NBA free agency window being opened, and we do have some news for our beloved Bulls. As was widely anticipated and speculated, the Bulls retaining guard Coby White, the restricted free agent. And I guess let's start with talking about the details of this deal, because originally Shams reported 3 years, $33 million for Coby, which would be a little less than we all expected, I think. And then Woj tweeted that it is 3 years, $40 million. And then I did see a tweet from Casey Johnson who said it could be potentially $40 million. So my deductive skills lead me to believe that this is a 333 guaranteed with some potential incentives. Is that the same way you interpreted it, Will?
Yeah, exactly. My guess is that Woj is just doing a favor to the agent to make it sound like Coby made more money. And look, I mean, that's kind of part of it, right? Like these base pays do sometimes include incentives. They do sometimes include likely or unlikely bonuses. So even I feel like, and we'll get into the details of it, but even if it does get up to that 40 million number, I think that will mean good news for the Bulls, right? Like this $33 million base number is great. I think that's a very solid deal. And for him to make more money, it will mean that he played really well. So that's good news for the Bulls.
Dave, you happy? Or Mark?
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, Will is right. Like, if he gets up to 40 million, I'll be ecstatic. That means that dude is clearly balling out and doing what we want him to do here for the Chicago Bulls. Like every year I've watched him get better at something. And every year I've watched him get better at something that everybody said he can't do. So I just expect it to continue. At least I should say I hope for it to continue. But yeah, man, he seems primed. He seems ready and focused. I just ready to see him play. I think it's a really good deal for him as well. The 33 guaranteed, a little less than what was projected, which again is another awesome thing. So yeah, it just seems like good news for me all around.
We can circle back to Coby in a few minutes, guys, but we just got some breaking news coming through from Woj. Free agent guard Jevon Carter has agreed on a 3-year, $20 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. His agents, Mark Bartelstein and Reggie Brown of Priority Sports, tell ESPN Carter leaves the Bucks to bring Bulls his perimeter toughness. You know what else he brings? Some freaking three-point shooting, y'all. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Dude, I'll take this. I'll take this 8 days a week, baby.
Dave, you are going to love this. You are going to love this because Jevon Carter is a goon. He is going to be the goon of the night for the year.
Listen, you preaching to the choir, man. I've been following Jevon Carter.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, since high school. This dude's from Maywood. Like he's born in the Valley of the Goons. Like I understand, bro. About Jevon Carter, man.
Many basketball tournaments played there.
Yeah, he can ball. And again, another guy who was not known as a shooter who turned himself into one, which is what got him paid. He already had the defense, so you already adding that to a top 5 defense in this league. So you're adding the point guard that you were missing as well. Combine that with the shooting that we all know we desperately needed. It's a good ass deal. And again, another good move for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I really like this. I feel like that he he answers a lot of questions that you have about this team, right? He gives you really high level point of attack defense. His nickname on Basketball Reference is Bulldog. Like he's a dog. He's going to get the guys. He's going to give you trouble on the defensive end. He'll be 28 years old by the time the season starts. And to your point, he really started shooting the ball at a high level last year. He's a 39.7% career 3-point shooter, but last year got it up at volume, 4.2 3-pointers a game, over 42%. And he also has the same birthday as me, so that's pretty sick too.
but like a few years younger.
He is 3 years younger than me to the day.
Mark, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's good. It's fine. So I like this deal. This is a good and reasonable contract for Jevon Carter, who, for all the reasons you guys said, very good player. Be interesting to see if he starts or if he comes off the bench, what this means for the rotation, what this means for IO, what this means for maybe Coby's incentives that are assumingly part of his deal. But as I sort of noted online yesterday, the Bulls were going to use partial, or they have the ability to use their mid-level exception in part or in full. This is clearly going to be in part of the mid-level exception. So this is roughly half of the mid-level exception, a little bit more. So they still have a little bit more of the mid-level available to use, assuming they want to use it. Now, let's see what they do. We've have to keep the tax reasons in the back of our minds. But it was also always shaping up as an option here based on Coby's numbers that he signed, as well as the numbers that Jevon Carter has agreed to here, that the Bulls are probably going to stay under the tax, but they could use their mid-level exception if they prioritize someone for, around that $6, $7, $8 million. Or at least that's the numbers I was working off, and that's what they've done here. So I like that they've prioritized point guard. I thought it was going to be Pat Bev. I didn't think it was going to be Jevon Carter, but this is probably better, to be honest with you. I'm happy with this.
Skippy.
Much better, honestly, because he gives you more upside than Pat does, I think. I mean, similar players in the sense that they're going to be irritants defensively and really get up into guys and just like have high level awareness on that end. But the ability to like shoot off the dribble, those are two different skills. He's going to be able to play with the ball in his hands a little bit more. I think it does sort of, you don't have to now feel the pressure to bring Patrick Beverley back. Maybe they still do, but I just think this gives you a lot more upside. He's still, like I said, only going to be 28 next year. Has really had to work to find a home in the league and really popped last year, playing 81 games for the Bucks, who obviously were the best team in the East in the regular season. So I really like this. He gives you the shooting. He gives you the defense. He gives you some of that toughness. I just think he fills a lot of the holes that the Bulls have, not all of them. And I don't know, does he account for like 3 or 4 or 5 extra wins? Probably not on his own, but I do think it's a good step. And at this number, just above the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $5 million, depending on how else things go or where they're getting this money from, they will be hard capped at the $172 million first apron, which is fine. They were never going to exceed that to begin with. But I think you're getting really good value per dollar here. Right. And, entering and really being in sort of the middle of his prime, he really, I think, still has some room to grow.
And it seems like most of our fellow Bulls fans in the comments are happy about this signing as well. Joel Hernandez bringing up the good point. You mentioned him playing 81 games for the Bucks last season, Will. Joel saying he's not playing for the Bucks next year. That's a win. I mean, yeah, anytime you can add talent and also simultaneously take it away from one of your division rivals, the team that's been winning your division year after year recently, is great news. Adrian Shake chiming in saying, I think this is a very good fit for the Bulls. Carter, top 5 in deflections and one of the highest rated point guards in defensive rating, 40% three-point shooter, as well as 40% shooter as well. Solid signing. Maybe get a wing, ? So now that we know Coby's coming back, and we already a day or two ago got the official Vooch deal and the Vooch figures, and now we know that this 3-year, $20 million deal is happening for Carter. That's the question that we now ask. And you were kind of talking about it, Mark. Numbers wise, what wiggle room do the Bulls have left if they're still trying to be an under the luxury tax team this season? Like, is that it? Like, I saw some people in the comments asking, well, this is great. Does that mean we're done now?
Yeah, well, not necessarily done in terms of adding players. They still obviously have to add players, but in terms
a
of the
couple of
amount
vet minimums,
yeah,
probably,
yeah.
but
In
like
terms
as
of
far as like actual
dollars,
big dollar contracts.
yeah, correct. Like I guess it depends on what they're going to do with Io and what his number may or may not be. But if he was to come back on a reasonable type deal, then yeah, the rest of probably what they will do, we're probably talking vet minimum guys. Like I said, you still maybe have the ability, if you want to pay the tax, to use the rest of the mid-level exception, which is probably about 5, 6, or 5.5 million at this point. So they have the ability to add another Jevon Carter level player, let's say, another good role guy. But I guess the tax question is one that we just now have to think about. But now I guess our attention turns to Io. Like, what are they going to be doing with Io? Yeah. Do they want to re-sign him? Is there some overlap here now with Jevon Carter and you're bringing back Coby? Maybe not. I guess I don't really want the Bulls to be in the business of letting good or decent young guys go for nothing, particularly if they could be had for reasonable deals, which maybe they can't. We'll see what Io gets back. But if you can bring back Io on a reasonable deal, then I think that'll be their next piece of focus here going forward. But yeah, I'm not expecting further big things. The only way something big is going to happen will be via trade. It's not going to be via free agency for the dollar reasons that we've noted here. So yeah, I'm not expecting something big, but they also have the biannual exception available to them as well. Again, assuming they want to go into the tax, but that'll be about $4.5 million, something. Oh no, it's a little bit more, but nonetheless, yeah, they still have avenues to add talent, but let's see what they do.
Yeah, and I was just going to say the IO thing is a big question mark here because just plugging some numbers into my cap sheet as we're talking, if you've got Vooch at the 18.5 starting point, if you've got Coby at the $11 million starting point, and Io accepts his qualifying offer of 5.2, and then, which could change. He could take a little bit less than that. But if you've got Jevon Carter in, that's a tax. I mean, you're $750,000 away from the tax line. And so that could be all. There's still another roster spot to fill. Actually, 2 of them, or 3 or 4, depending on what happens with Justin Lewis and Julian Phillips and Patrick Beverley. But it's looking like, unless they're willing to go into the tax, this could be the one big move. Obviously, things could still change with Io, with some of these other back end players. But I mean, for you to be able to get this kind of player, I feel like you could have had a bigger market than this, obviously bigger than the taxpayer mid-level. So that does wipe out some teams. But I do think value-wise, this is pretty good. I would love to spend some more time watching the film and looking at some of his numbers, but just value per dollar, I think this makes a lot of sense. Again, the bigger questions are still there, right? Like, you got your point guard. I'm not sure that he really profiles as somebody who's going to be a Chris Paul type, who's going to really organize and get your guys into place and create offense like that. Probably not. Does he answer some questions?
And get technicals for flopping.
Yeah,
that's a new rule now.
That's a new thing. He's going to give you defense. I think that extends the depth of your guard rotation. Bulls still need size. They still need more shooting. He does not answer all your questions. And to me, this kind of indicates that we're looking at roughly the same group, that one of those bigger trades is looking less likely, because you don't sign a guy like this to continue to compete at the same level or a slightly higher level if you're going to go out and trade Zach right afterwards.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, I really do like this though, man. Like, Jevon Carter can really, really go. Like I said, I've been watching him a long time. Even following him a lot in college, man. And I've just always been impressed with his game. Like you said earlier, Will, just that bull, like nickname being Bulldog, like just that kind of mentality that he plays with, you know what I mean? Like, it's very Chicago, and obviously because, he's from Maywood. So that mentality lends itself to Bulls fans loving him, but his game lends himself to basketball fans loving him, because I love the kind of player that he is. And already you start thinking of, as you mentioned, those lineups with Caruso, and just what that kind of lockdown will look like. Yeah, it frees up so much for them. But you're right, they definitely need more, but they shored up the main thing that they haven't had, that they clearly needed, was that point guard, and he can do some 3-point shooting. You obviously need more shooters. You obviously need more size, like Will is saying. So we'll see what else they're doing. But this answers a lot of questions, and doing it for 3 years for $20 million on top of that, it answers your questions, and it saves you, a nice little piece of change on top of that too.
Yeah. We got conflicting opinions in the comments about Ayo Dosunmu and whether or not Bulls fans want to see him back. Somebody mentioning that he only averaged 2.7 assists as a starting point guard. See ya. And then I think DeAndre said, I like Ayo, don't want to give up on him, don't want to see him go. We'll see what happens with Ayo. I mean, prioritizing getting Jevon Carter over figuring out whether or not they want to keep Ayo, I think is, a smart move by the Bulls, because like we've been only watching them keep guys that were already here, and Bulls fans have been clamoring for something different because we didn't want to watch 82 games of the same roster. This is interesting here, guys. Another bomb just dropped as we are talking. A lot of people wondering what the hell was going to happen with Kyrie Irving. Free agent Kyrie Irving, according to Shams Charania, has agreed to a 3-year, $126 million contract to return to the Dallas Mavericks with the player option on the 3rd season. Boom. This is actually really cool. The quote tweet from Shams saying Kyrie's agent, Shatelia Riley Irving, will become the first Black woman to negotiate and complete an NBA contract. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah, you saw that happen there. You saw it happen with Jalen Hurts and his agency, also in the NFL as well, because his agent is a Black woman. Actually, his whole team are Black women. So, or women, I should say, period. But yeah, this is awesome. Awesome stuff. I mean, Kyrie Irving is a great player. I didn't think he was leaving Dallas.
The rumor report, whatever you want to call it, about him going to Phoenix,
going crazy,
having a meeting with Phoenix, that was
just drumming up stuff. Yeah, that was just trying to drum up stuff. You know what I'm saying? I never believed he was leaving. Like, I just thought he was going to be in Dallas. But
the thing is, like, from a business standpoint on the Mavericks side, like, he's not going to go sign for the vet minimum with Phoenix.
Right.
Like, there's no other real places so like this leverage play that I think he was going for was just kind of like, what is that actually doing if you're the Mavs front office? They obviously painted themselves into a corner trading for him in the first place. And that like there is some volatility there. It could go wrong. So to lock him up, I think 3 years makes a lot of sense. The longer term nature of it, I think, was starting to scare some teams off. So obviously you got the player option. Who knows whether or not he picks that up or declines it, but it feels like it's kind of a middle ground, even if the Mavs didn't need to meet him in the middle.
Yeah, and he was never going to Phoenix because that would hard cap the Suns, because it most likely would have been a sign and trade. And if you're hard capped, you're at that 172 number, and at that point, the Suns are paying like 150 odd million to 4 guys with 15 to 20 million to sign the rest of their roster, which just isn't feasible. So yeah, the Kyrie to Phoenix stuff was never going to happen. Maybe the Houston thing, I guess, was a potential, alternative for Kyrie, but I'm not surprised that this is where it's ended up. And good luck to you, Luka Doncic. I'll say that.
We all kind of knew that Phoenix was going to have to fill out the back end of their roster with a bunch of minimum contracts because of, this giant collection of star-studded big contract guys they brought together. I like 15 minutes or so ago, Woj tweeted that free agent Chimezie Metu agreed to a 1-year deal with the Suns. So that's just to give you a little glimpse into what the Suns are doing in their first few hours of free agency. Another one that came through while we were talking is a name that came up as a potential target for the Bulls, and that's Georges Niang, who is leaving Philly. He agreed to a 3-year, $26 million deal to join the Cleveland Cavaliers. So he's coming to the Central Division, and the Bulls will have to deal with him in Cleveland. I feel like, didn't Cleveland also make some other signing, like early, like right when things were going? I can't remember.
Karis LeVert, they brought him back for 16.
Right, they brought LeVert back.
16 a year.
Speaking of the Bulls' Central Division rivals, this just now from Woj, 3-time All-Star Chris Middleton agreeing on a new 3-year, $102 million deal to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks, his agent tells ESPN. Middleton keeps the franchise a championship contender with his return player option on the 3rd year. I think most people thought that the Bucks were going to retain Middleton. There were a few different teams whose names were thrown out as aggressively pursuing Middleton if he was flirting with the idea of leaving. But, I mean, if you've got that core together and that core is led by Giannis and they're willing to give you that kind of – I mean, like, that's 30+ mil annually for 3 more years for Middleton. I mean, that's a no-brainer for him to stay.
You have to stay. Like you're part of a big three out there and the championship team. You know, like there was really no reason for him to go. Honestly, like I just didn't see it. Didn't make logical sense in my brain. Basketball wise, but money wise, sure. But basketball wise, why would you leave Giannis and Drew Holiday when you can compete for a title again next season and probably the season after that, as long as Giannis feels like playing basketball?
Yeah, and now I guess for them, it's can they also convince Brook Lopez to stay? And I think they will. You know.
Yeah.
Here's another couple of big ones, Matt.
Go
if you
for
wanna...
it, Will.
Well, we've got 2 free agent center. Jakob Poeltl has agreed on a 4-year, $80 million contract to stay with the Raptors. We can talk about that as it relates to Vucevic's contract, which I think is an interesting parallel. And then restricted free agent forward Cam Johnson agrees to a 4-year, $108 million deal to stay with the Brooklyn Nets. Where should we start on that?
Ooh. Well, so actually, you know what? Let us take our first break, and then we'll come back and address these on the other side, because there's a lot of interesting stuff there, moving pieces. Nets made a different trade earlier today, sending Joe Harris away to Detroit, and people were wondering if that was for the purpose of clearing up some space to keep Cam Johnson. So there is that. We'll come back and keep talking about all this breaking news on the first hour of free agency on the other side of this break. While we're sharing these words from our friends and sponsors, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button if you're watching along with us on YouTube. We got almost 600 people hanging out with us right now live on YouTube. Shout out to all you at Bulls Nation. Appreciate you tuning in on a Friday afternoon, the Friday of 4th of July weekend. That's diehard Bulls fandom right there. Of course, also make sure you are subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Dave, who's up first today?
Beer. That's who's up first. And that's who's always up first. That's who's forever up first. Beer. That's what we like. That's what we do. And we get it from the Goose Island Beer Company because it's awesome. I know Matt is up there in Mish just sipping on a few frosty cold ones of the Goose Island Beer Company, sir. The Goose Island IPA. Who knows what he has? It could be that, the 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest. Maybe he's got the Tropical Beer Hug, or as I like to call them, the Herb Lawrence's. The 9.9% alcohol, dangerously easy to drink, as we saw her prove to us because he drank 3 of them joints straight, and I'm still marvel at it. The 312 Wheat Ale, which is the classic, and of course, the favorite among us, the Full Pocket Pilsner, the everyday beer. It's what the brewers are drinking, and what the people who drink what the brewers are drinking are also drinking. So, also, you might want to try the Mark K loved and Mark K stamped Matilda. Get fancy on people and try you a Matilda. Oh, it's all sexy and awesome. And you can go down to the Goose Island Original Brew House on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or you can hit that tap room in the Fulton Street in West Town and get some exclusive brewery fresh beers that are just as amazing, y'all. Because it's the Goose Island Beer Company, the true taste of Chicago. It's Chicago's beer.
Chicago's beer. Shout out to our awesome CHGO Blackhawks crew who spent the week down in Nashville covering the NHL draft. They just, wow, they crushed it, and it was so much fun to see all their content. Friday vibes are always great, but this Friday, the person in Chicago sports who made me the happiest, unquestionably, was Connor Bedard. I mean, Connor Bedard is now officially a Chicago Blackhawk, #1 overall pick in the 23 NHL draft. Blackhawks are coming back. We got a franchise again. I am hyped about it. The vibes are good. The other thing that can help you get your Friday vibes going, a beautiful summer Friday, a holiday Friday, on top of knowing that we have Connor Bedard as a Blackhawk, is to stop by one of your local Sunnyside cannabis dispensaries. That's how you get your Friday vibes going. That's how you enter the 4th of July weekend. Sunnyside Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. It's your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs that offer easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Plus, they offer their great transparent loyalty program that they call Sunnyside Rewards. It's Illinois' favorite dispensary for a reason. From the city to the burbs, from Wrigleyville to River North. Check them out wherever. Also, Champaign got you covered. Beloit got you covered. Sunnyside locations. Here's a tip from me. My personal favorite, the Good News Gummies. They got these tangerine flavored gummies. Ooh, they got a hybrid. Delicious. Make me feel good. Get my weekend off to a good start. So here's what you do. Now through August, here's the offer. Head to sunnyside.shop and use promo code CHGO25. That's CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. One use per customer. And it's not stackable with other promotions. But it's not just for new customers. Anyone can use our promo code CHGO25. Pick up everything you need to elevate your summer, to elevate your 4th of July weekend at sunnyside.shop or any of their Illinois locations. Must be 21 and over or an Illinois Med card holder.
Yeah.
God, the vibes are good on this Friday. The Bulls signed a shooter, you guys. Oh my God.
An actual player, a player that can do stuff.
Lawrence is telling me that we've got some super chats, so let's knock those out, and then we'll keep talking about all this fun breaking news. Isaac Howard with a $20 super chat. Shout out, Isaac.
Hey.
Thank you. Saying, do the Bulls have enough to go after Trey Lyles? I believe I saw he already signed, right?
Yeah, he was one of the first signings.
Yeah, back to the Kings.
So that takes care of that.
But thanks for the super chat. That's very nice of you.
Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. We got another super chat. Oh, Manuel. What's up, Manuel? Always good to see you here. Who said, I wish Joey was here to see this. Is he coming back? Let's see how far this takes us. Whoa, let's go, guys. So hyped. Joey is not here. Joey is off at camp, being camp director extraordinaire. He's probably like having a water balloon fight right now or something, not paying attention to NBA free agency. And you know what? Good for him. He's living his best life. I mean, you talk to Baby Joey all the time, Dave. Have you heard from Baby Joey how Joey is doing?
He won't tell me. He's just been cryptic about it, like he likes to be. You know what I mean? And I asked him, I was like, "Is Joey cool?" He said he is where he is. And I was like, "All right, you know what you want? I don't know what you want me to do with that, but okay, you know." But as far as I know, he's still around.
What happens on summer camp stays on summer camp. I think that's what the that's what people say, you know.
I should have gone to summer camp as a kid. I need to experience.
Hopefully, it's not band camp. That's another thing.
It's not band camp. No, it's not. It's not band camp. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So no Trey Lyles for the Bulls. No Joey for us. He'll come back when the summer's over. Joey will come back. Yeah. If he's not, I'm going to hunt him down like MJ went to hunt down Dennis Rodman at the end of his Vegas vacation in the final Last Dance season. Joey's not allowed to disappear. Okay, so circling back to those two deals we were talking about before the break, guys. Jakob Poeltl is a name that like Bulls fans seem to have been obsessed with for a couple years now. Didn't really see a realistic path for the Bulls getting him, and then it became a moot point once we did in fact sign Vooch to a new deal. I'm honestly just kind of curious what the Raptors' plan is this year and for the next few years. Like, okay, cool, you got Jakob Poeltl to stay, but everybody's waiting for the tweet to say that Van Vliet is leaving and likely going to the Rockets. You still got Siakam kicking around, but like, what is that Raptors team going to be? Like, dude, you lost to the Bulls in a play-in game. Like, that's pretty sad.
I wish I knew. I mean, look, it's really difficult to pull the plug on a team. And I think especially for a Raptors team that really has a true like outline or blueprint of what they want to be. Like, I think they have built an infrastructure of guys that are all very similar, right? Long, lanky, athletic, defensive-minded guys that really can play at a high level. They can dribble, pass, and maybe not shoot as well as they need to. But I think because they are so developed in the sort of like blueprint that they want to be, it's hard to pull some of those guys out. Depending on what happens with Fred VanVleet, that may pull their hand a little bit and sort of usher on the Scotty Barnes era. But yeah, I think it's just like a difficult way to move on from a group. And I know it didn't meet the expectations and standards of what they wanted to be last year. And I know Kawhi's not there anymore, but this is also a group that won the championship like 4 years ago. So I think it is a little bit different. They also have guys that are much more coveted around the rest of the league than some of the Bulls guys. And so they're waiting on the right deal to come across before they really do anything. And I don't think they feel the pressure, the urgency to blow things up in the way that an older team like the Bulls maybe should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm just confused about what they want to do, like you said, Will, and what they're trying to do out there. I know they want to remain competitive. They stated that they want to be a competitive team. So I guess if that's the case, yeah, you would sign Jakob Poeltl back. I'm interested just to see where it goes and how it goes, because everything's about to be brand new up there in Toronto. You know, not having Nick Nurse there, now your culture is about to change. So I'm interested to see what that looks like as well. So yeah, it's a lot of questions for them. But they seem to want to compete and want to compete for the playoffs and go that way. I can't fault them for that. So interested to see. But Jakob Poeltl, I like Jakob Poeltl. I think he's very good. Get your money, big man. Not mad at you at all. Get your check. Very proud of you for getting that. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I can't say either way whether I think it's good or bad, because I don't feel either way about it. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't really care what it means for the Raptors. That's not the lens I'm viewing it as. The key thing for me is $20 million is seemingly now the going rate for a decent, good starting NBA center. And why is that relevant for us? Obviously, it's because that's the same number that the same average annual value that Vooch signed. So from that perspective, does it change my feelings about the Vooch trade? No, because, I mean, Jakob Poeltl is obviously younger and those sorts of things. I don't love the full guaranteed for Vooch, but in terms of the average annual value, at least we should feel confident now that the Bulls didn't overpay from that perspective. You can still have the conversation around, like, who are they? Did they outbuild themselves? And you can have the same conversations with the Raptors and Jakob Poeltl in that sense. Like, who was giving Jakob Poeltl $20 million? I wonder if the Raptors fans are having the same conversations that some segments of the Bulls fan base were in terms of Vooch, and like, who were you really bidding against, I suppose. But the average annual value, like, that's the key thing for me. And that's what Jakob Poeltl got. He's a different player to Vooch, very different player, almost the opposites in who they are as players. But like I said, that's seemingly the going rate for a decent, good starting center in the NBA, and that's what the Bulls paid for their guys, and that's clearly what the Raptors have done here as well.
Yeah, I did notice that in this morning's new episode of the Hoop Collective with Brian Windhorst, he, in passing, talking about somebody else, mentioned the Vooch deal and said something along the lines of, 3 years, 60, nobody on the open market was going to compete with that number or come close to that number. And, I'm sure that makes a certain contingent of Bulls fans angry, those asking who were the Bulls bidding against to give Vooch $20 million. But, I mean, there is the element of, like, you don't want to insult the guy. Like, hey, Vooch, you're probably not getting $20 million from anybody out there. So do you want to take 14 from us? I didn't really see a realistic path, the Bulls getting that aggressive of a hometown discount without just, like, slapping Vooch in the face, basically. And you're right. By comparison, Mark, like, the going rate for a capable, maybe above average, but not elite starting center in the NBA, $20 million annual average. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. And look, I mean, there's a difference between Vooch and Poeltl too. Poeltl is like an absolutely elite rim protector. Vooch is not. Poeltl can't shoot a free throw to save his life. He's not going to stretch the floor out. Vooch is obviously much more capable in those areas. Vooch is older, both very good passers. So they both are limited in some ways. They're both very good players in other ways. I think this is fine. You're also looking at a 4-year deal compared to a 3-year deal. That matters. And look, as Mark and I talked about yesterday, that is a discount. Like, as a number, as a annual salary, he took basically $3.5 million discount for this season. And as a percentage of the salary cap, it's an even larger discount. I think it went from like 18% of the cap to 14, if my math is right. So
and his average annual value is a discount as well, coming from 25 down to 20. So yeah, he has given the Bulls a discount, definitely.
So that's well and good. I think they could have played like real cold-hearted hardball and gotten him like for $1 million above the mid-level exception, because, aside from these really low-level cap space teams, there may not have been a home for him. But And maybe that saves them, you know, like $3 million to be able to get one more player. But I do think there's something to be said for like keeping the relationship healthy. This is, you know, we'll have to see, I guess, if this is going to be a tradable contract. But I think, you know, 18.5 is much more palatable to me than 20 million this year. And as the cap rises 10% each year, it's going to look smaller and smaller. I definitely don't hate it, but I do still disagree with the direction that this team is going. And I think that's like a larger, but also very separate issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Meaning like running it back and adding a shooter.
Because, I mean, this is basically, I mean, like how many more wins does Jevon Carter add to your team? Obviously you take away a weapon from the Bucks, but the Nets are not going anywhere. They're in the Dame sweepstakes. Like they could take a big jump. You've got teams like the Pacers who just added Bruce Brown, who were a 500+ team when Halliburton played last year. They're going to be better. You know, it's just, you can't just like remain the same. And I do appreciate the fact that they went out and got a guy who can really defend and also give you some shooting. Like I do think he makes you better, but I still believe that the ceiling of this group is limited. So I think basically what this Carter signing does is indicate to me that they're still going for it and that they still believe in this group, which is what it is. But at least they're like trying to continue to invest in it as opposed to letting the same thing happen for another year, because that I think would have been like doing anything dramatically bad would have been a big problem and doing nothing would have been a big problem. So they did need to thread the needle there and do something, but make sure that it wasn't going to hamstring you too much going forward. I don't think a $6.6 million contract does that. But it also makes you better now. And if that's the goal, then I think they at the very least attempted to accomplish that.
Yeah, I just wanted to know from you guys how you felt about the Coby contract, though, because he came in a little under what a lot of people were predicting he would. Did that surprise you, or did the incentives kind of just make you be like, oh yeah, that's about what you thought it would end up being?
Well, I think Mark had around 10 or 11, so he pretty much hit it on the head. I was projecting a little bit higher because I thought that the threat of the $12.5 million mid-level exception might entice another team to go after him if the Bulls wouldn't beat that. So I think to get him below, and even if the incentives do kick in and he gets like 13 and a third, like that's $1 million above the mid-level exception. So I don't think that's bad. It's lower than what I projected. And I think Coby still has a ton of room to grow. Like he really impressed me with his growth this past season. Still very much a limited player, but when you've got a 22, 23-year-old guy that you've had in-house and you've seen, like I think all these guys are different, obviously. And so it's not like an apples to apples comparison, but when you've seen Lowry and Wendell go to other places and really flourish, it's a little bit harder to take your lumps on another guy. So I like that they didn't let him test restricted free agency. I like that, you know, they didn't have to mess around with this. They just got it done and they still got a good deal with it in terms of dollars, because he likely could have gotten a mid-level exception from another team. So I'm fine with this. I think he's going to have to continue to grow. He's going to have to work to exceed this value because it is still one of the larger contracts on the team. But just from like a pure value standpoint, I definitely do not hate this. I think it's a pretty good piece of business for both parties.
Yeah. And, you know, before free agency started yesterday, I settled on my official predictions, let's say, and I had Coby coming back on 3 years, 35. Now that he's come back at 333 or somewhere between 333 and 340, we'll see where it lands depending on the incentives. Like that's a completely reasonable and fine deal to me. It was always an interesting one because clearly Coby wanted to stay in Chicago. The sentiment from the Bulls was they wanted to keep Coby. He was a restricted free agent. That's always problematic. There weren't a lot of teams with cap space, and those teams that did have cap space sort of have answers at guard as well. So I didn't necessarily think the market was, you know, pointing to a particular way for Coby to really get paid. So I think this number is good and fair for both sides. And unlike those previous scenarios, particularly with like Lowry, where it was clear he did not want to be in Chicago anymore, we never got that feeling from Coby at all. And because of that, like I didn't necessarily think he was much of a flight risk. So look, maybe there may have been something better out there for him. Maybe he could have got the full mid-level from someone else out there, a full, 4 years, 50-ish type $1 million deal. But if that wasn't there, and, given the fact that he seemingly liked being in Chicago and the Bulls wanted to retain him, and it wasn't, there wasn't any bad blood, maybe in the same way that there was with Lowry and the Bulls, this just ticks a lot of boxes. So to Will's point, like the fact that they just organized this, sorted this out on day one, literally minute one, and didn't have to worry about this being a prolonged thing throughout free agency, it just makes complete sense. And it's also a good thing that they got this done now as well, because now you know what you have to do, or what the rest of your capabilities are, or where your team sits from here on out. Whereas had this thing been playing out, you're umming and ahhing about what Coby's doing, maybe that changes your decision making on a bunch of other things. So this being set in place now, it's just nice, because now you understand where your team sits, where your depth chart is, what dollars you still have remaining to add other pieces, whether it's IO or others. But I like the fact that it just got done, and we can move on now.
We are about an hour 12 into the NBA free agency window being opened. Here's a crazy stat, guys. This is from Sportsnet Stats, and I saw it in my feed because it was retweeted by Mark Stein. NBA teams have committed a reported $1.02 billion in salary over the first hour of free agency.
Shout out.
Crazy.
$1 billion. That is
good time
a lot.
to be in the
So many people
NBA.
got paid in the last hour and change. So many people just got paid so much money. This is wild. NBA free agency is crazy.
It's so much fun. It's so fun, dog. It really is. And it's more.
All right,
much more left.
let's take our second break, and then we'll come back and have some more thoughts. Maybe we'll get some more Woj bombs, some Shams bombs, and you know what? Just for funsies, let's address it, because it was floating around there today from Jake Fisher, Yahoo Sports. James Harden, what's going to happen? We got to talk about that. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Hit that thumbs up if you're watching along with us on YouTube. Shout out to the 600 plus of you hanging out with us on your Friday afternoon, Friday evening. Today's show brought to you by our friends at ComEd, whose energy efficiency program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower those energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their great territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, and industrial processes. Now, Mark, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that sounds great, Peck, but how the heck does it work?
Literally, ever since you started talking about ComEd, I was sitting here thinking, how the hell does this work? Can you tell me?
I can tell you, man, it's as easy as signing Jevon Carter. An authorized engineer works with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Then, within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects they can start working on right away. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, dollars in your pocket, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback plans. If you own a business, 1, good for you. That's not easy to do. 2, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. Did you catch that website, Mark?
I think it was ComEd.com/poweringbiz, but do you mind repeating it just in case I got it wrong?
I don't mind at all, Mark, but you were correct. It is ComEd.com/poweringbiz, B-I-Z-biz. Schedule your appointment today.
Will do.
So yeah, like I said earlier, speaking to Baby Joey, he's doing well. He's doing all right. Everything's cool. He's back from Nashville. He was a little surprised that Connor Bedard was 17 years old. That kind of blew him away a little bit. So that's how it goes down in hockey. He might want to, get on that. He should be down for that. So,
are you Baby Joey, Dave? Because
no. He was a little blown away.
Mark and Will, Big Dave texted me and our Outsiders crew the other day. He's like, "Wait, hold on. Connor Bedard is 17 years old."
17 years.
I didn't know that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, Mark K. Yes, Mark K. Thank you. You put that stick in C-Red Ted's hand right now.
He's almost as young as Patrick Williams, Mark. Almost as young.
Well done, sir. Well done. Well done. And just like me, and just like Baby Joey didn't get this, Shady Rays never understood either. Just didn't understand why these glasses got to cost so much money. Why do you have to pay so much to put premium polarized shades on your face? You should be able to do this at an affordable price. Shady Rays said, we have got your back. They are an independent sunglasses company. They offer world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair you have ever put on your wonderful round face. They got the durable frames. They got the extremely clear optics, and they got it for your outdoor. And as this man is with the tank top is about to prove in a second, your indoor adventures. But also, they have that Matt Peck lost and broken replacements plan. So if Matt tosses that hat and the glasses are on that hat and it goes splat because he threw it so hard against the wall, whether it's happy or anger, usually anger, but that's how it goes. In case they break, you can send that right back to Shady Rays, be right back on his face in no time. And they'll do it for free, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, the theater degree is paying off, ladies and gents. I love it. It's awesome. But also, just say you got some glasses that you put on because you saw the GOAT wearing them and you thought that you could look cool wearing them too. Well, you do look cool, but you're not going to be the GOAT. So you say you got to get your own style. You send those back in. They will send you your own style, your own new pair for free, as long as you do it within 30 days. There's no risk to you when you shop, and their team has always got your back. So exclusive for the listeners out there, Shady Rays giving away their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use the promo code CHGO, get yourself 50% off of 2+ pairs of premium polarized shades. And try for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Because the Shady Rays, where the Rays are oh so shady.
Oh, so damn shady. There's the Shady Rays dingo hanging out with Mark K down there.
Dingo ain't your baby.
Shout out to Ramses Rendon in the comments with the super chat, who said, with Jevon Carter and Coby, would you still sign the Rose? I mean, if the Bulls sign him on a vet minimum because nobody else wants him and he wants to come back, like, fine. But again, I'm not a fan of the distraction that would be, and I'm not putting the label of distraction as an insult in any way to Derrick, but this team needs to focus on such bigger things than a Derrick Rose homecoming right now, in my opinion. But at this point, all you're talking about potentially is a veteran minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I just think it's for the best that he is not back. I think it's a distraction. I think he would have been a fine vetman point guard, but like they got a very good high level replacement, or like above replacement level starting point guard to take over for the next 2 years, or 3 years, I should say, as they sort of wait to see what happens with Lonzo, because he's good enough to hold it down. But he also kind of slots into more of a rotation role if for some magical reason Lonzo is able to come back. So they get their little, celebration of getting to do the from Chicago in the starting lineups. It's always fun when they do that. Maybe this probably means that Pat Bev is not coming back. Io probably moves to a bench role. So I think they've got enough of these like smaller defensive-minded guards. Jevon Carter, much better shooter than anybody else the Bulls have had there. And that's really what we need, right? Like the defense is great. I think that was the identity of the team last year. They need to find a way to supplement and maximize the Zach, DeMar, and Vooches of the team around them. And I think Carter does that in a way that's much, much more, effective than Derrick Rose would have been. And now, we've got 3 roster spots remaining that are open. Depending on what happens with Justin Lewis and, Julian Phillips, does he get a 2A? Is he on the big roster? I'm not sure, but just basically a couple of veteran minimum spots here. And do we want to use one on another point guard when you already have Io? You've already got Caruso. you've got Carter now. It's just a very small team. I think size and shooting is really going to be the priority here. And I think that basically needs to be like the thing that they're after.
Yeah. Look, I've got no sweeping takes. It's not the right thing, but let's move on. There's better things to talk about. But appreciate the super chat.
Yeah.
Well, there's a new signing out there.
AK in the comments agreed. Nothing but love for Rose, but it's time to move on. This is interesting, gentlemen. A name that a lot of people were chasing after leading up to free agency. This from Shams just a minute ago. Free agent guard Gabe Vincent has agreed on a 3-year, $33 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Wow. And there's Shams tweeting about his agent negotiating a deal for a tremendous undrafted success story. So, hey, I guess the Heat take a hit, right? Yay, that's good news for Bulls fans. The unpredictable finals appearance yet again, Miami Heat losing Gabe Vincent from that squad. But now, because they lost Gabe Vincent, I am fully expecting any minute now a tweet that's like, hey, Dame's going to the Heat, or, some other star who's on the move. James Harden's going to the Heat. Oh my gosh, how crazy would James Harden and Jimmy Butler be?
Oh my god, that would be wild.
Remember when Daryl Morey was about to trade like 7 first-round picks for Jimmy to the Rockets like 5 years ago? Those were good times.
Well, so we stumbled onto the conversation, so let's address it. In his morning report for Yahoo Sports, Jake Fisher threw out this, like, he wasn't saying he heard from sources that it was being discussed. He just threw out as a hypothetical, hey, this might make sense. Once James Harden's trade request became public, James Harden to Chicago, Zach or DeMar, or Zach and DeMar to Philadelphia. I heard some Bulls fans in my mentions and on Twitter saying, hey, why not? We want to change. That would be a change. And I heard some Bulls fans saying, please, God, no. I was in the camp of please, God, no.
I'm shocked.
James Harden is a talented player. I've never been a big fan of his. He's aging. He's not as dominant as he once was. And just tell me this. Riddle me this, if you would. When has getting James Harden ever worked out for any NBA team? Ever? In the history of James Harden, NBA star, when has getting him on your team before not having him on your team worked out well for you? Ever?
All right, well,
slow down.
I mean, he went to the finals when he was with OKC, and he was 2 times in the Western Conference Finals with the Rockets and won an MVP. Yes, he is not the same player, but come on.
Good God, dog. Seriously? He's one of the greatest 2 guards of all time.
He ruins everything everywhere he goes. No, I do not want James Harden.
I'm not saying I want him, but come on.
Yeah, but
come on, what?
But
am I wrong?
He's not like a trash player.
Am I wrong?
He's an MVP. Yes, you're wrong.
Yeah, very much so.
I am wrong in that he ruins every team everywhere he goes.
Look, would I want to hitch my wagon to James Harden? Absolutely not. He's probably like the second, if not first, least loyal player. If you trade for James Harden right now, you're basically putting yourself in a position where you can lose him for nothing at the end of next year, if not sooner. So would I want to trade for him? Absolutely not. But is he a good player? Yeah, he really is. He may not get you to the most important moments, and he may fumble the bag when he does get there. He's certainly not the same 35, 10, and 10 guy that he used to be, but he is a very good facilitator. He can still score. I think the jumper and the ability to get all the way to the rim has left him a little bit as he has aged. But I think it's kind of like shuffling deck chairs, right? If you're going to trade DeMar for Harden, you're getting another hyper ball dominant guard who's going to need the ball in his hands basically every possession. He might be able to spot up and shoot a little bit more, but every time the Rockets or the 76ers have tried to do that, it hasn't worked out. He needs the ball in his hands. That takes it away from Zach. It forces Zach into a more off-ball role, which I think he does not want to be doing. And I don't think he solves any of the real problems. He's a better facilitator than DeMar for sure. I think DeMar's a better isolation scorer because he's one of the best in the league. So all things considered, I definitely would not want to trade for him. I would not even want to be like in that conversation. So not saying that I am encouraged or am advocating for this trade, but I still think he's a very good player.
He's definitely a very good player. Like, to even say it, like last year, you're watching him decline, and he's still what do you average, like 21, 6, and 10? You know what I mean? Like, still shooting 38% from three. Like, he's still that dude. He still can do those things for you, man. No, James Harden is a very good basketball player. Trust, I don't know anybody except myself, obviously, of course, because of course I like James Harden. Why? It's on brand. But I don't know anyone who likes James Harden. I don't have any friends or any basketball who likes James Harden at any level. I haven't met one. I am all alone in this. But I remember when he left OKC, and I got on Ball on Bulls and kept telling people that dude's going to average like 40 a game when he goes out there. He's going to kill people. And everybody's like, you're crazy. And then what'd he do? He went out there and he balled the hell out. Like, that's what he does, man. Yes, but Will is right. Like, he's ISO dominant. Like, he needs the basketball, period, point blank. He has to have it for everything to work for you. And I don't know how that works for the Bulls. Now, him being back with Billy Donovan probably might be a thing. We'll see. Billy, like I keep telling people, Billy Donovan's offense works better when he has a point guard. That's just what it is. He's better when he has a point guard, which is awesome. I'm not saying that as a detriment. I'm just saying what it is. But yeah, man, like
Big Dave, but Big Dude in the comments just said, if we want Billy Donovan fired, bring James Harden here.
But I like James Harden. I always have liked James Harden. People hate his game, and I understand it. It's your free throw shooting and fouls and flopping and shit like that. I get it. But damn, dog, I've watched him just do astronomically amazing things as far as the scoring the basketball. Like, he is truly special. He had a 3-year stretch where it was just basically him and Steph as far as the best players in the league. And you saw that in the MVP voting. Like, that's what it was. That MVP voting was close every year between those two. That's just what it was. But he's not that guy anymore, obviously. He's not that kind of player. But he answers your questions at point guard for this team. He puts you definitely on the radar for, as far as media is concerned. You be talking about James Harden on your Bulls team all the time. But yeah, I don't know what way I would feel if the Bulls made the trade for him. I wouldn't feel as mad or bad as you or Will would. But yeah, I don't think it would bother me to that extent to get a guy like James Harden on this team, man, because of what the Bulls are lacking. It wouldn't bother me. Like, that's what it is. It wouldn't bother me.
I understand. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to read this comment because I like different dupes. Trading for Harden is a Faustian bargain. He will be great, but you need to keep him happy, and he is very hard to keep happy. Guy. Shout out to dupes for the Faust reference. I appreciate that. Love good literature. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, that sort of speaks to the point I was going to make, that comment there. Like, we're seeing DeMar at the moment in LA with Dalen, with what's his name? Patrick Williams. That's his name. I swear I didn't mean to do that. I swear I didn't mean to do that. Well, but like the point is, like, in terms of locker room and that sort of stuff, the intangible stuff, I think there would be a net negative in adding someone like James Harden, who is now trying to play on his 4th team in 3 years, something like that. I don't know if that would be a good locker room addition, particularly when you're subbing out someone like DeMar. I can understand why it works on certain levels from a basketball standpoint. Like, yeah, okay, cool. He shoots threes, certainly shoots more threes than DeMar, would solve some of your playmaking issues, get Zach more off the ball, all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, like, when I think about a lot of the complaints that people have had about Billy Donovan, the offense, these sorts of things, then I don't also understand the addition of James Harden, because, yeah, he might not be scoring 30, 35 points per game, but he's going to be running a ton of pick and roll. He's going to be in a lot of isolations. He might not be finishing those isolation plays, but he's going to be involved in, setting up those isolation plays. That means you're going to have, like I said, Zach in less sort of an on-ball situation, which I think is a good thing, but a lot of Bulls fans wanted to see him more in those sorts of roles. But another complaint that I've heard a lot about was, why is Coby not getting more opportunities? And this is the big one. Why is Pat not getting more of an opportunity? Now, if you add someone like James Harden, Patrick Williams is never getting any playmaking opportunities. I mean, that's not the case now already. So if your concerns are, or your issue with DeMar is he's taking things away from Patrick Williams, or he's not allowing Pat to cook or to be more involved and these sorts of things, and you extend that out to Coby and Io, etc., then that ain't going to change with James Harden as well. So some of the issues that Bulls fans have raised as to why they want to move on from DeMar, yeah, okay, he may solve some things in terms of James Harden, but a lot of the issues that you have or that you complained about last season would remain. So it doesn't make sense for me. And like I said, the fact that he is who he is, entering the final year of his deal, probably not going to be back here next season. I just don't see why we bother doing this.
Well, let me ask this:
shout out
would it
to
bother you because of what DeMar's contract is? Like, isn't he going to be on his last year as well?
They're both expiring. So you're not necessarily winning from that standpoint. Like, you're not turning an expiring deal into someone who's still got 2 or 3 years left, which to me, that would probably make more sense then. You would have some security. But having said that, James Harden is James Harden, so he'd probably still demand a trade. But yeah, from a pure expiring point of view, you'd be in the same position. But also, like, James Harden makes more money than DeMar DeRozan. So if it was a simple 1-for-1 swap type thing, then the Bulls are adding salary. If they want to, shore up or balance the dollars as well, then the Bulls have to send out additional players to make it sort of, like for like, if they don't want to go into the tax even further, which probably means at that point dealing someone like Caruso or Patrick Williams, because that would make the money work from that standpoint. And if that's the type of trade that Philadelphia would want, because, I mean, this is a thing we also haven't discussed. Like, why would Philly want DeMar DeRozan, who's the exact opposite player that Daryl Morey has tried to build his teams around?
He also just, like, they operate at the same spot. Like, Embiid is best at the nail, and DeMar is best at the nail. Like, they wouldn't work. And so if these rumors are Zach or DeMar for Harden, you're giving up Zach to get James Harden back so that you can play him next to DeMar. Like, that would be a disaster. Just going to be a no for me.
A couple more names just fell off the board, gentlemen, as we've been chatting. Names that Bulls fans were looking at as potential ads to help the Bulls' three-point woes. Woj just now, free agent forward Joe Ingles has agreed on a 2-year, $22 million contract with the Orlando Magic. That's interesting. Well, that's another piece gone from the Milwaukee Bucks team of last season. And then just now from Shams, another name Bulls fans were talking about, free agent Yuta Watanabe of the Brooklyn Nets has agreed on a deal with the Phoenix Suns. Wow, that's a big get for Phoenix.
And that's what happens when you get 4 star players together. The high-level role guys are going to go to your team, and they're going to do so cheaply. And that's why I was always a little worried about, I mean, certainly, the Bulls should sign Fred VanVleet as a free agent. Like, that obviously was never going to happen because they just don't have the space to do so. But for the people that were saying, well, let's bring in Yuta and George Niang and these guys that can just fill out depth as shooters, that's great in theory, but you have to compete with some of these other teams who have more enticing situations than the Bulls do. I think that's why the Bulls end up giving money to Jevon Carter. Like, he may or may not have been able to get a similar deal, maybe play the come home and play for your hometown team discount type of thing. But I think you're now going to be competing for bottom of the barrel veteran minimum guys for these last couple of roster spots. So let me ask you this before we go. Like, if this is the move, if this is, fill in X, Y, and Z free agent for the veterans minimum with your 13, 14, and 15th roster spots. So if Jevon Carter is the move, you get Coby back. That's nice. How do we feel about this as a free agency period?
I mean, thinking about your article that you wrote the other day about the Vooch deal, and in a vacuum, you can in a vacuum, I think the Jevon Carter deal is, maybe an A minus, something like that. I think the Coby deal is very similar as well. Like, if I want to be at my complete harshest, it's like a B+ at worst, but I think it's somewhere in the A vicinity as well. So in isolation, these two moves that we've seen thus far are very good moves, and I have no issue with them at all. But where the problem becomes is to what you sort of alluded to before, Will, where, okay, this is effectively the same team. All we've really done is sub out Patrick Beverley for Jevon Carter. Like, that's all that's really happened at this stage. So the running it back continuity thing is what's happening. That's problematic from my standpoint. Yes, there's still time for them to do certain things, and I'm not going to jump off I'm not going to jump out of a window just yet, but we all saw this coming, and we weren't dumb about it. So this is why, again, when we were having this conversation last week in terms of AK being overly confident and telling the fan base, hey, just wait until you see what we've got cooking up in free agency and then come yelling at me. I was preemptively mad because this is where it was always heading based on everything that has been said. And just if you follow the team, you just knew this was where it was going. So I guess the point is, in isolation, completely fine and like what's happened thus far in terms of the deals they've made. But as to what it means big picture wise, I still ultimately don't like it because I don't like the run it back idea. But maybe I'll be proven wrong, and maybe the Bulls have just a really good season next year, and maybe they could be or have a season like the Knicks had last season, and that's kind of all I've wanted over the last 2 to 3 years. Maybe that randomly does happen, but at least based on the evidence at this stage, there's no reason to believe that'll be the case. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah. I'm with you, Mark. Like, I love the Jevon Carter signing. I think it's great. It addresses a glaring need for this team. If it's they re-signed Vooch, they re-signed Coby, Drummond picked up his option the other day, and you add Jevon Carter, does that collectively, as here's our Bulls offseason, make me feel better about the Bulls being a playoff team next season? I can't sit here and confidently say that right now. No. And I think Bulls fans were maybe hoping for something bigger and more interesting, as Shake Milton agrees to a deal with Minnesota just now per Woj. Look, we talked on draft night about just because the Bulls didn't make a big move on draft night didn't mean that maybe something big wasn't coming down the road, because AK said, we know that we need to make some changes to this team and we need to get better, and we're going to get better, and I'm going to use everything at my disposal to improve this roster. People still talking about maybe Zach LaVine being traded, talking about the asking price for Zach LaVine. I saw from Cowley earlier today, according to his sources, teams were calling the Bulls about Zach still leading up to the free agency opening, not so much the other way around, which is what we had heard from reports earlier in the offseason, that the Bulls were actively calling teams about Zach and what they would be offering him. Cowley used the word astronomical when describing the Bulls' asking price for Zach LaVine in a trade package earlier today. If that is in fact the case, and we've heard that several times, we've heard it described as multiple first-round picks and or multiple young, talented players. If that's the asking price the Bulls have set for Zach and will not take anything less for it, then Zach's probably in a Bulls jersey again next season. And look, if it's that or trading him for peanuts, I'm fine with that. I mean the silly Harden thing that came around earlier today, I was like, oh dear God, no. Like, I'd rather see if the Bulls could just perform better, win more close games than they lost last season, and add some shooting on the fringes of this roster and do that. And that looks like the path that they've chosen.
Yeah.
I got more to say on it that I can't really expound into because I got a mother I love that I gotta go take care of. But I'll say, if this is it and nothing else occurs for them, yeah, I'll be a little disappointed because there's still other things that they didn't address, as far as size is concerned, as far as wing help is concerned, as far as I would love another shooter as well on this team. So I'll be a little disappointed at that, but I appreciate them addressing the need of point guard, which is what I wanted from step one of that, is getting a point guard here. And you guys know, like, I've been on the build it around Zach train. That's the train I've been on. Like, I just want to see it built around him. And then after you do that, let me see what it looks like. And if it's trash, all right, tear it down. I'm cool with that. But I need to see what it looks like first. So I'm okay with building around him. And this is them building around him. I don't mind the price being astronomical because you believe in your guy. That's fine. But yeah, you give him, he's better with a point guard, and he obviously needs shooting around him. And he and Vooch are one of the best pick and roll combos in the league. So you're building around Zach LaVine, giving him what he needs to succeed and be a better player. We'll see what it looks like next year, but I think it all kind of hinges on the young guys as well. For me, maybe AK is thinking that way as well. I don't know, but we'll see what Coby comes in there and does. Of course, Patrick, of course, Dalen, all the Justin Lewis, Julian Phillips, whatever those guys and what they can bring to this team. But I'm not mad. Like, I think that's the bottom line of it. I didn't want to be pissed. And that's just what I did not want to be pissed off. And I would have been pissed the hell off if nothing occurred and they just threw everything back and, brought Patrick Beverley back and that was it. That would have pissed me clean off. So you actually did something logical of a guy that I wanted, that I talked about. Yeah, bring me Jevon Carter. You still got some time to do something. So let's see. But yeah, like, run it. Let's see what it is. I'm not pissed. That's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think basically they're kind of betting that Jevon Carter can do some of the same stuff that Lonzo did with Caruso out there that made them so special defensively with the hit-ahead passes and the steals and all that. I don't think he's anywhere near the caliber of player that Lonzo was, both as a passer, a shooter, or just with the lack of size, a defensive player. But I think he gets you closer. I think he's going to be maybe somewhere in between Lonzo and Patrick Beverley, maybe probably closer to Patrick Beverley on that spectrum. I'm with Mark. Like, I think the bigger issue I have is like with the group as a whole. And I think the Bulls should be asking a lot for Zach. I wouldn't want to trade him for a worse off option, but it just indicates to me that like they still believe in what this core can do with the right players around them. And they're trying to address that. So I agree, like, not the end of the world by any means. I'm going to be excited to watch this team. And I think Carter does help them quite a bit, but the larger questions of like what's happening 2 or 3 years down the line, that's going to stay with me until they answer them.
To that end, Will, we got a couple super chats here, then we'll get out of here. AK wondering the same thing, saying running it back defines continuity. I'm really surprised, as I thought Acme would move DeMar and Caruso to add in shooters. AK threw us another super chat saying, move so far justify Acme's confidence at the presser? I would say no. The amount of how dare you, like, energy that AK was giving off at that press conference, I would say adding Jevon Carter on a 3-year deal does not justify that level of confidence that AK was putting out in his press conference. We'll see if there are more moves on the horizon. But right now, I would say no. Wow, he was way too confident to speak like that for this to be what it is. Ramses Rendon threw us one more super chat saying, you're all goats. Thank you for the constant coverage, boys. Have a badass holiday weekend. Thank you. You're a goat, too. Also, we all know there's only one true GOAT. Where is he? There he is, right down there. That's the one true GOAT. It's the one true GOAT. That's why he's the MVP. Also, thank you, Lawrence, our wonderful friend and producer, for putting up the poll in the comments. I saw some people in the comments calling me like an idiot for that take about not wanting Harden because Harden everywhere he goes ruins everything. Somebody said, awful take, Peck. Some people agree with me. The poll, would you like to see James Harden on the Bulls? 17% yes, 83% no. Suck on them apples. Oh, yeah. It's such a disrespectful take on James Harden. Y'all don't want him either. Y'all know why you don't want him? Because he ruins everything everywhere he goes. I don't care about his stats. I don't care about his assists per game. I don't care if he can get to the free throw line. He ruins everything everywhere he goes. Stay away from my team.
That outburst reminded me of like something that you'd see from Tim Robinson on I Think You Should Leave. Like how he just goes from calm and all of a sudden goes completely weird and psycho. You care about that?
Like, you need to hit up. You got to hit up Sunnyside, my friend.
Dude, I need a good news coming from Sunnyside right now. Actually, what I do need to do is log off, post this episode, and then go read my niece's a bedtime story. That'll calm me down. So that's what we're going to do. Everybody, thank you for hanging out. We are, as of now, theoretically off until Monday. If something mega happens tomorrow or Sunday over the holiday weekend that warrants an emergency pod, we will put out the bat signal, assemble ourselves, and bring an emergency pod to y'all. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. Will is at Will_Gottlieb. Big Dave, bow, BAWL Sports. Mark is at MK Hoops. I'm Bulls_Pack. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out and thanks to our friend and our producer, Lawrence, for staying late at the office on a holiday weekend Friday. Nothing but love to you, Law. Appreciate you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
He's the man. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Thank you to everybody who threw us some super chats, interacted in the comments. This, we're a couple hours in. We'll see what happens after this. And if something major happens over the weekend, we'll talk to you about it. Otherwise, we will talk to you Monday. Yeah. See Red be good. Welcome to Chicago, Jevon Carter. Happy 4th, everybody. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. Peace.